think it was ugly. I thought it was weird, but
Does it look less weird?
it looks kind of cute now.
Hi everyone, this is episode 103 of the Impulso Podcast, and today we have a very special guest joining us. So this is Phyllis.
Hi, I'm Phyllis.
You might have heard her name over the last few episodes because she's usually behind the camera.
Yes, but today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic. So we're going to be talking about Pop Mart, and Phyllis is our expert on Pop Mart, which is why we have invited her onto this podcast, right? So maybe to start, Jianggan, do you know what Pop Mart is?
Of course I know what Pop Mart is. I have a few friends who invested in that. But again, what is that?
This is the consumer side, so why is this?
This is my favorite Labubu. I spent $40 on this, which I think is a great steal.
That's a good transition to our next question, right?
Why is that a steal?
The average Labubu retails for about $50, and if you want specific characters, then you can buy them for about $300.
Okay.
On like Carousel or something.
So how did you manage to steal?
My friend bought like a lot of blind boxes, and she had an extra one, and she decided that she doesn't want two pink ones, so she sold it to me at a steal.
Oh, that was by chance.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing, because Pop Mart has a blind box model, right? Yeah. So recently there's been a very, very big Pop Mart craze, right? If you go to the next slide, you'll see that there have been a lot of younger people, Gen Z, who have been queuing.
You are Gen Z.
I'm an older Gen Z. There's a lot of younger Gen Z who have been queuing very, very long to buy Labubu toys.
Sabrina is playing identity politics.
Yeah, I'm in the middle, guys. But the thing is, why do consumers buy Pop Mart? Why do you buy Pop Mart, Phyllis?
Firstly, I love pink. And secondly, once you start, it's really an addiction and you cannot stop. So because it's blind boxes and they have series, so when you buy one and then it's not the one you want, you feel even more compelled to continue buying to get the one you want, or you get the one you want and then you want to complete the collection. So it's just a never-ending vicious cycle.
But what got you started in the first place, right? Because yesterday we were talking to you about this, and clearly you didn't know.
She did not want to buy a Labubu.
No. I actually started buying Sony Angels, like the cute little baby, because I think that was super cute. And then after that, everyone was buying Labubus, and I saw, oh, actually this thing is like kind of ugly cute. You know, like the kind of ugly cute thing that you buy. And then my friend mentioned this to me at a steal, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get something that everyone has at a steal, buy.
Afterwards you can't stop anymore.
Yes, this is the maximalist mindset.
That's the gateway, right? But it's interesting because
it's contagious.
The comment a lot of people have about Labubu. So obviously we know Labubu is very popular now, right?
Yeah.
And I think the craze was brought about by Blackpink's Lisa. So she carries this on her bag.
Okay.
And that's why...
Who is Lisa?
So she's a member of Blackpink, which is a
What
really
is Blackpink?
famous K-pop group. They are very famous Korean pop group.
Korean.
So Lisa is one of the members of the group.
Yeah.
So when Labubu first blew up, a lot of people were questioning it, right? Because it's not conventionally cute. It is like what Phyllis said, it's ugly cute. So obviously when you speak to a lot of... I'm sure if you speak to people, do they talk to you about Labubu?
As in what?
Like, why do people buy Labubu?
I have so many people ask me that question.
Why?
I said, why would you ask me?
Yeah, but it's an interesting question, right? But obviously their business model is working because Pop Mart itself is a very successful company. So if you guys are interested, obviously when we look at how good a company is, we look at their financial statements, right? So Pop Mart actually is a public company. If you guys who buy Pop Mart and are interested in knowing how well the company you're giving your money to is doing, you can check out their financial statements. They've been listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange since 2020. And in 2023, they had about 6.3 billion yuan in revenue. But I think, of course, today's episode, we're not going to focus on the numbers. If you guys are interested in that, there are probably a bunch of analyst reports. They also have an IPO prospectus and financial statements that you guys can look at. But today, what we want to talk a little bit about is kind of the team behind Pop Mart. So Pop Mart was founded in 2010 by Wang Ning, who, he looks quite young. He has the fashionista.
He appeals to the Gen Zs.
Fashionista.
My point is that some things that if you look at it, you don't pay attention. If you look at it in detail, it feels weird. If you look at it long enough, you start to sort of fall in love with it. Because Phyllis Labubu has been in office for like a few weeks. And at first I was saying that, okay.
It's very ugly. Do you think he's cute now?
No, I didn't think it was ugly. I thought it was weird. But
Does it look less weird?
it looks kind of cute now. So
It's a human nature thing, right? The more you look at something, you either really start to like it or you really start to hate it. Obviously, when we look at how well a company is doing, we look at their numbers and then we also look at the team behind it, right? So Jianggan, you know a couple of investors who have invested in the Pop Mart.
I mean, not in the public market, because when first went to the public market, I think it was 2020 or 2019, and most people were skeptical because, honestly, most conventional investors didn't understand this business model, didn't understand why people were crazy about it. So I know a bunch of guys who invested in the company in the very early days when this guy was just starting up, and heard some of the stories, right? I mean, they were saying that, okay, at that time, I think some investors formed a thesis. They said, okay, the sort of the fashion toy kind of category, there's worthwhile investment. So they scanned all the companies in that industry. So Pop Mart was one of them. And at the time, I think a small retailer in Hong Kong, they said of all the top 10 companies in this category that he has spoken to, Pop Mart founder is the only one who doesn't know anything about financial projection, about, benchmark and stuff. He said, I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, how big is the market? I don't know.
But he still chose to invest in them, even though...
I mean, that guy had the interesting thesis. He said, okay, the other 9 companies spoke to, and every founder had impeccable presentation deck to him saying that this is our business, and this is our benchmark in Korea, in Japan, in the US, and this is what we look to achieve in 10 years' time. This is the financial projections. And he said, it's very easy to poke holes into their projections. I mean, they came very prepared, but this guy looked very genuine. He was really passionate about what he was doing. And he did a site visit to his office, and people were really looking at doors, combing hair and stuff, which is very different from a opportunistic startup. So his thesis is that there must be some value behind it.
So he senses that the founding team is very passionate about...
I think just passion not enough, but he says that there's something very different about this, something that he didn't understand. I think kind of makes sense, right? If amongst 10 companies in the sector, he has to choose one company to bet. This is probably a good bet. He made it 40 times.
Oh, okay. So I was going to ask that. That was my next question. Was like, did he manage to cash out a good amount? 40 times.
He made it 40 times, but he said even he didn't sort of anticipate that it could actually grow even much bigger after that. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Oh, have you read that book called Japanese Monsters? So basically, it's a book of this thick, and it tells about all the monsters in Japanese folklore. Like one page, I mean, ghosts, monsters,
Please bring the book. I would love to read that.
It's this thick, and I bought that in a bookstore in Beijing. And I checked out the counter. The cashier was like, "What's wrong with you guys? I mean, this is like the 4th book I've sold of this, like in the last half an hour."
Wait, but it's an interesting book. Like, it's a book that you wouldn't find. People are interested in monsters.
But folklore sells quite well. Like,
Yeah.
especially when you have like a character and then there's a story behind it.
IP, guys. We are going to dive into this in a bit. So when we're talking about IP, right, obviously we know Pop Mart relies a lot on IP to sell their products. And of course, they have non-exclusive IPs. And then they also have exclusive IPs. So their non-exclusive IPs are kind of like Harry Potter, Sanrio characters like Hello Kitty, Disney characters that they sell. But of course, and I think this is something that Phyllis, even as a consumer of Pop Mart, you didn't know, right?
Of course I did not.
So
She just found out yesterday that, I mean, this is a designer behind Labubu.
Yeah.
Labubu. So for those of you who are interested in Labubu, Ka-Sing Long is actually the guy who works behind the scenes to create Labubu. And of course, Labubu is an exclusive IP to Pop Mart. So Pop Mart works actually with quite a number of different designers to create this kind of IPs, right? And of course, Labubu is part of the Monster series, which is designed by Ka-Sing Long. He's from Hong Kong. For those who love Labubu, right, you can check out his Instagram page. He has a lot of photos and all. And in the next, if you can show the
So
rest.
Labubu has a family, right?
Yes, the Monster family.
He actually created Labubu first, and then after that, Pop Mart bought the Labubu IP over from him. So then he started working in Pop Mart after that. Yeah.
So it was under Pop Mart that he started creating like the rest of the Monsters family.
Yeah.
The monsters, yeah.
Yeah.
So they also have a bunch of their own other characters, right? So they have like Molly, they have Dimu, Hirono, Skull Panda. All of these are IPs that they work closely with designers to create.
Yeah, so my friend who invested in that company was telling me that the one caveat of why he decided to invest in this company, aside from, oh wow, this guy's passion, is that guy already had exclusive agreements with quite a number of designers. He said at least this thing will be off sound by.
So he already started working with them, and they invest quite a lot into this IP. So I was looking through their prospectus, right? They spent about 822 million Hong Kong dollars to expand their IP pool. So this includes, of course, sourcing for new designers. If I'm not wrong, they go to like conventions and all sometimes just to find new designers to work with. But of course, if let's say this is your business model, right? You have so many SKUs. How do you manage your supply chain or your retail stock? Because obviously you're selling blind boxes.
Yeah.
Not just blind boxes. I think they have non-blind box items as well, right? And you have such a large variety of SKU because you have your non-exclusive IPs, you have your exclusive IPs. And these are, Pop Mart itself operates almost 300 plus retail stores globally. And they even have their Pop Mart vending machines, right? So how do they manage all these? How do you know when to get rid of some? What do you think?
I think this company has sort of found a way to manage the whole IP operations. There are a couple of issues that you have to deal with when it comes to this. I mean, first, how to control the channels, right? So the last thing you want is that people using these IPs and people sort of selling this at different prices. For instance, you got one at $40 from your friend, but usually I think for lots of these companies, if they don't control their channel well, you will have goods flooding the market and people competing on prices, competing on everything. I think Pop Mart controls everything. I heard that even for their live streaming operations in Southeast Asia, they control everything. I mean, from China. So they don't send their goods across different channels, but they do that through their own channels.
So they manage the supply chain themselves.
They manage distribution, basically. Yeah.
They don't give anyone else the rights.
I don't think so. They have their stores in different places. You've been to the stores in Singapore?
Yes.
You have been, obviously. Yeah. Which ones?
For sure.
Which ones?
The Plaza Sing one. I think it's the biggest one.
So the first store in Singapore was at the Funan Mall. Funan Mall is like a young, trendy kind of space. So when they first opened that store there, so that was when people started paying attention and say, hey, here's this company from China. I'm coming out to Southeast Asia. I think about less than a year into its operations, somebody who is close to them was telling me that, that store just broke a record. I said, what record? $70,000 sales over one night.
Was there a special launch?
There was some event. I don't know where to follow their events, but
But
that broke.
The Funan store in particular?
The Funan store, I think that was like 2 years ago or something. Yeah, so there was one sale with 70,000, and I was before Pop Mart. Started expanding to Indonesia, to Thailand, to the Philippines. I think they launched a store in Thailand recently, which performed really well.
Actually, they manage quite a couple of channels, right? So they have, of course, they distribute to the social media influencers and all that they work with, but retail is also a pretty big channel for them. So
it is, yeah.
When we looked at their prospectus, a big proportion of their revenue actually comes from retail channels. And I think, but that has something to do probably with the consumer mindset, right? If you're buying a blind box, so
she's not in agreement.
I don't know why consumers feel that if they go down to the store and buy the product, maybe they can sense which product it is. There are people who bring who try to weigh the products, right?
For some people, they try to weigh it or they try to feel it. And then there's also the added thrill of opening it immediately and then realizing that you get the one you want. It's kind of like the thrill of gambling, It's a little bit like gambling, I would say.
So that's the concept of boxes, kind of.
So what happens when you open it and it doesn't turn out to be the one you want?
Then you buy more.
You buy more.
Yeah. So then that's the good thing about opening it in store, right? The moment you open it and it's not the one you want, you just walk back in and grab another box.
Yeah.
Until you get one.
Yes.
Sounds like very poor. But
this is not exactly gambling, right? So this is that you pay money for things of a certain value. You just don't know whether there's a particular design you want, but essentially get the same product.
Yes. This is a very common kind of strategy that's used in not just Pop Mart, but in online games as well, right? So they have this gamification feature where sometimes the items or the products that you get are randomized, and then you have to keep trying or keep spending money to get games.
But here you get a real cute doll.
If you buy it from the resale market.
And you can actually resell at a higher price.
Actually, you can, yeah. What is the highest price you've seen a Labubu being resold for?
They are the really, really big Labubus. Those you can resell for 5 times of the retail price.
What's the retail price?
is like 200-300. I think you can sell for like thousands, which is insane to just
Interesting.
for a doll that does nothing. Maybe we should get one for the office.
We buy from secondhand market or we send you the queue.
I once had a Darth Vader in office. If somebody stole it.
Nobody will steal the Labubu. Only Phyllis will steal the Labubu. That's your only concern.
Hey, Labubu very valuable now People are stealing it.
Oh yeah, do you know? So Phyllis was telling me right before the podcast, recently they've changed the keychain on Labubus because people have been stealing Labubus like off people's bags. And
No.
so it's a big Gen Z trend now to hang like keychains on your bag. And there have been
So
cases where...
basically, this keychain is more steel proof.
No, this is not the newer one.
Okay,
So
okay.
now they have a newer model. Maybe we'll find a
PopMart
photo.
didn't change it. They are buying specialized keychains for their Labubus. PopMart didn't
Okay.
change it.
Labu labu, labubu, labubu, labu labu, labubu.
So there are people selling specialized keychains to lock your Labubu to your bag. Do you know there are also people selling clothes for Labubu?
Yes.
So there's a whole like other market built on top of these.
Interesting,
Features.
because you create ecosystem, right? You create this IP, and around the IP, there are people who consume, there are people who actually produce, and that becomes a ecosystem.
Yes. It's very similar to kind of what I would say maybe a less evolved stage of the Disney ecosystem, right? That's obviously also how Disney started. They had their IPs. And then of course, branching out from their IPs, they started to have merch, they have collaborations. Does Labubu have any collaborations with anyone?
Not that I can
Not
think
yet.
of, yeah.
They have collaborations, and now PopMart has even opened their own theme park.
Oh, they have their own theme park?
Yes. So recently they opened a theme park in Beijing,
Yes, Beijing.
where it's just a land of all their IPs. So essentially, I want to say it's like Disneyland, but when I was doing some research online, they say it's more comparable to maybe the Studio Ghibli theme park.
Okay.
Theme park in Japan,
Okay.
as compared to Disneyland in
What
terms
is
of
Studio Ghibli?
so Studio
audience
Ghibli
who
is
don't
this
follow,
Japanese animation company who makes really nice movies like House Moving Castle, Spirited Away, and all.
Yeah.
So they have a sort of theme park in Japan where they just have sort of set design of the movie scenes that they have.
So what do we expect next? Like PopMart cruise?
Oh my god, that would be so
Because
fun.
Disney cruise
Yeah,
is
I was
pretty
like-
popular in
It's possible. I feel like if you build a good enough IP, right, and it's something that consumers really like and
can-
build an emotional connection with, you can sell them anything.
I think for theme park or for cruise, you need an assortment of IPs who are popular enough. And you probably want the consumers to grow a little bit with more spending power, maybe like bring their kids and stuff. So the key thing here is to see that, okay, I mean, the IPs that are really popular here, Molly, Labubu, etc.,
Labubu.
are they just popular for like 1 or 2 years, even 3 to 5 years, or they have the lasting power? No, this is something we don't know yet. I think that depends on the operations of PopMart as a company. And Disney has done a lot
That's true.
over like
But
a century.
Disney has a lot of storytelling elements also. Like
Yeah.
its IPs are not just a character on its own, but usually it's embedded in like a movie or a story. So that
You
helps
can constantly
build,
create stories about it.
And then you can make like 10 different remakes of the same movie, right? So that's how you build like emotional connection. Whereas for PopMart, I think most of their characters are just characters on its own. And like you said, how long can they last in popularity, right? Labubu has been around for a while, but only recently became very, very popular. There are other PopMart characters who are not as popular, but we spoke to some people yesterday and they said that they were glad that the PopMart characters they like weren't as popular. Because it makes it a lot harder to get it as a consumer, right?
Which is interesting because in that way you have, we talked about Luckin's sort of product strategy, right? I mean, they have like 100 plus new products launched each year, and only a few of them will be wildly popular, but the others would appeal to some of the niche audiences who might not find the mainstream, who might not find Labubu or more interesting, but they have their niche. So PopMart is having those market served as well. So it's a good thing.
I think for someone who likes both Disney and Labubu, right? I know, very dangerous.
Consumer opinion.
I relate a lot more to Disney. Like my favorite Disney character is Winnie the Pooh because I used to watch it as a child. And
Winnie the Pooh, dangerous.
yeah.
Yeah, same.
And I watched a lot of the cartoons and movies. So then, even now as a 23-year-old, I'll still buy Winnie the Pooh stuff. But I only bought Labubu because it was a craze, right? And there's not much storytelling behind Labubu. Like, Labubu has a boyfriend, but I didn't know that until I was researching yesterday.
What Labu has a So sorry. First,
Labubu is a girl.
Labubu is female.
Yes. And her boyfriend is called like Zimomo or something like that. He's the brown
Don't
one.
squeeze.
We'll add a photo to show you guys.
He's the brown one with the
Labubu's
tail.
boyfriend.
Yeah. So I think because of Disney's storytelling with all the movies, right, that it creates a lot more emotional connection. So people are buying it because, you know, they can relate to this character or it related to them since they were young, so they buy it. But
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
That's something that Disney also relies pretty heavily on.
Labubu is more of like a passing phase for now. Maybe in the future, if they create more movies or stories, then, you know, kids 20 years later will be saying like, oh, I used to buy Labubu and I still buy Labubu.
But that's the thing, right? With exclusive IP rights, I mean, they can consider.
They can. I mean, Pop Mart has been able to operate that fairly well across social media channels, across retail channels, across different kinds of distribution. But whether they can create stories, whether they can get this IPs to have lasting power, whether they want these IPs to have lasting power, I'm pretty sure these are the things that they have been thinking about. And whether they do it or not, or how well they can do it, I mean, I think it would be something interesting to watch.
You can support them by supporting Labubu and buying more, if you guys are interested. So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Impulso Podcast. We hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode where we talked about something a little more interesting and more relatable to the consumers. If you guys are interested, do like and share this video as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on the latest trends and happening in tech, new retail and the broader digital economy. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.